Okay, well, we're here today to have a discussion about our relationship group, and we have called it Uncoupling for the past 3 or 4 years. And so we're getting ready to kind of shift direction a little bit, and we're going to be thinking about finding love after 50 and all the implications for finding a relationship, creating a relationship, sustaining a relationship. And so, although there are a lot of commonalities with long-term relationships, regardless of age, I think there's some things that are unique to folks that are a certain age cohort, of which we're all three are all a part of. So let's just start with just having a discussion about that very issue. What really are the challenges, do you think, for creating and sustaining a long-term relationship, finding one and then building it, for finding and building that kind of relationship when you're over 50 years old?
I think there's two things to consider. One is the personal expectation of what you're going to find as you try to discover your next relationship reality. And the second is, what is a relationship to you personally? Because relationship is a wide term, it's a broad term.
Yeah.
And people, I think, are looking for relationships that maybe include love, maybe it doesn't include love. Maybe it includes friendship, companionship. You know, I'm just wondering whether we're limiting ourselves by saying the love component has to be a part of it. I don't know. I know you've said numerous times that the friendship has to exist or needs to exist first.
Right.
And I think you can manage your expectations going into a relationship and letting yourself be open to it by saying, okay, I'm looking to be friends first.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is that realistic, Jo Marie?
I think so, because I think that in order to have a relationship, you have to have a foundation. And the foundation is the friendship. I mean, if you can establish a friendship with somebody, then you can grow upon that, or build upon it. But if you don't have that friendship and you don't have that, what's the word? You don't have that security with that person, then it's never going to go anywhere. You're always going to second, doubt them or question anything they have to say. One of the big things I always say is when I meet somebody is if they start something off on a lie, it becomes very hard for me to believe anything they're going to say. So if they, a lot of us are on dating apps, and if they're on a dating app and they state something and then you find out that that's not what it is, that kind of just throws a red flag immediately, because now you're like, if you tell me something, am I even going to believe what you're telling me? Because you lied about that. What else are you going to lie to me about? And that kind of just doesn't set a foundation. It kind of just throws it off on another planet.
Well, in terms of the nature of what you're looking for, what you expect, the management guru Stephen Covey said, when you're out to accomplish a goal, begin with the end in mind. Okay, so like for me, I have to be clear about what my end game is. My end game is a long-term committed primary intimate relationship, That's my end game. So maybe that starts with something more casual with friendship. I agree, friendship is, that's something that has to be there.
Yeah.
But I also want to be clear that, this is where I want to go. This is where I want to end up. That's where I want to end up. So, I guess, you take it as it comes, but I think to your point, it's important to be clear about what you want, what you're really looking for.
What you're ready for.
Well, what you're ready for, that's another thing.
What you're ready for, because your end game, I agree with you about being focused and clear in your own mind about what you hope to accomplish in meeting somebody new. But I think the reality is, you have to be willing to work with someone else's expectations and someone else's time frame and someone else's pace. There has to be a rhythm to a conversation, to getting to know somebody, and to me, the compatibility begins with the conversation. That's just for me personally.
Uh-huh.
There has to be some sense of commonality with values and with expectations. What I have found is that life experiences are also important.
Yeah.
Someone who has children and has had to compromise, focus on themselves, and had someone else as a priority is important, because that's then their ability to compromise in a relationship. Right?
Yeah.
Somebody's
Okay, so let me just take off on that for a minute, because, as I said at the beginning, there's some, I think, distinctives about being, a little older and getting into a relationship. Right. So what would you say are like the practical considerations? Like you mentioned children.
Mhm.
That's a big one.
And grandchildren.
And grandchildren.
Yeah.
Family. Money.
Money.
Money is an issue.
Mhm.
only to a certain extent.
Well, okay, well but it is. I'd like to hear what you have to say about that. Living arrangements.
Yeah.
Those are all, like, I don't want to say complicating factors, but things to be considered.
Mhm.
As even if you're doing it unconsciously.
Yeah.
You're kind of trying to navigate through this and put the pieces, trying to envision how this might come together.
Yeah.
In a lasting way.
Well, you go in with a punch list, don't you? I mean, you have an idea in your mind
Yeah.
on what boxes are going to be checked. Another one to consider at our age, which I consider upper middle age, to be honest with you, because of the extension of people's life expectancies. But health is
Right.
another issue that has to really play,
Yeah.
a part in your navigating meeting somebody new and accepting them into your life.
Yeah. Well, I lived on Longboat Key, Florida, and Sarasota County is old anyway, but Longboat Key is the older part of Sarasota County.
Yeah.
And a lot of the older guys, one of their prerequisites for dating was the person they date has to be able to drive at night.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, so you mentioned money. How do those things fit together for you?
Well, so when I say money, I'm not looking for somebody who's wealthy or well off. I always say to people, and I've gone on dates where guys have led with that and said to me, oh, well, I'll take care of you. I don't need somebody to take care of me. I can take care of myself. So I don't go out there with that preconceived notion that this guy's got to be rich and he's got to have a lot. All I care about is, can you take care of yourself? Do you make money? And you can take care of yourself? And you can do that. I'm good, because I know what I need to take care of me, and I have that.
But that's a parameter, though, is that you don't want someone that you have to take care of.
Exactly.
So that's a parameter you set on the relationship.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be with somebody who I'm going to have to, all of a sudden, they think they're going to live off of me.
Right.
And that's not how I look at life. I'm like, we go into a relationship 50-50. We go in on neutral grounds, or 50-50. 50-50 means everything.
Yeah.
So
but the reality is, though, some people are more financially independent than others.
Right.
They're different levels. So.
Right, but that's not, I'm not going to be like, oh no, I can't date you. But I'm just saying that that doesn't lead me. That's not something that's on my checklist.
Well, it's interesting that you brought up them saying to you, I can take care of you, as a trigger.
Oh, it is. I don't need to be.
For other women,
they would love it. Right.
That would be a positive. That would be more
Absolutely.
incentive to overlook other things about the person and have that be the overriding attraction.
Right.
Yeah. Well, here's something I don't know if either one of you can relate to this, but I've actually talked to a couple of women who said, I'm not in a position where I can live with somebody, because if I live with somebody, I lose my spousal support.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there are a lot of little, variations of the theme,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I haven't had that happen with a man, but, I think it is the reality for a lot of people our age, because, spousal support is part of their security financially moving forward. So, it is a reality for a lot of people.
But say that is the case.
Yeah,
But what's to say that I personally don't want to live with somebody?
well,
I
and
want
that
to
works
be,
for you.
I want to be in a committed relationship. I don't
Yeah.
want to date anybody else, but I never want to I don't want to live with that person. I want to live in my place and then they can live in their place and we can hang out and we can go over and we can spend time. But I want to know maybe after the weekend or something, I can go back to I want that for me. And I've met a lot of people and I've actually met guys that have said the same thing to me, that I need that space. I think when you get, I don't know if it's everybody, I'm just saying for me, as you get older, there are certain things that you appreciate.
Yeah,
And to me, that's having my time, maybe 3 days,
Yeah,
but having those days are so precious to me because I always say, like, I want to miss you. When I'm not with you, I can't wait to get back to see you. So I like that feeling. I feel that if I'm with somebody 24/7, that I might feel suffocated.
yeah.
So-
Yeah. So you have to find just an arrangement that works.
Right.
It's interesting. I was talking to a lady that she and her husband married quite a long time. They divorced, and they were actually in Europe, but they decided to get back together.
Mhm.
And she said the reason it worked is we decided that we were going to have separate bedrooms,
Mhm.
so we could go to bed together when we wanted to, and we have our own space. So just all kinds of, the way the way the world is today. I mean, the options are limitless in terms of even how people work, if they still work, because we can work remotely.
Right.
Have lived in different places.
Right.
With communication the way it is.
No, I think people do customize
Yeah.
what they see as a workable situation. And, I think that's one of the benefits of being a little older in a relationship,
Right.
because you do understand what your needs are. For myself, basically, coming up from what you had said about liking your own space, I agree with that, because I think women of our age arrive at a point where we like our downtime. And what I consider downtime, I also consider replenish time, because I'm not afraid to be alone. I'm not afraid to be with myself.
Right.
I like my own company.
Yeah.
However, that opens up another Pandora's box with women and men our age, in that they are afraid to be alone. They don't want to be alone. They see being alone as some sort of a failure,
Right.
some sort of a curse, or it's a statement about their ability to be loved.
Right.
Yeah.
If they're alone.
Yeah. So let me take off from there, because your comment, you enjoy your own company.
Yeah.
Earlier you made the statement that we need to think about what kind of relationship we're ready for.
Yeah.
So how does one prepare oneself to be ready for I would say, I'll use the phrase real relationship,
Yeah.
an authentic relationship, a relationship of some real depth? How does a person prepare themselves for that?
I have two things
Yeah.
that I think are the basis. One is you got to love yourself first. You can love yourself, you can love anybody else. But if you don't love yourself, you can go into relationship after relationship and it's going to fail. And the second thing is being able to be alone. That's key. If you can be alone with yourself, then you can be with anybody. You don't have to feel that you go into a relationship with those two things. That's key, because if the person isn't there or whatever, you're not feeling like, oh my God, where is he? Why is he not here? You've got to learn to be alone with yourself. And when you can do that, you're going to have a very successful relationship, because you have no, you have no expectations. Your only expectations are for yourself. And when you can do that, then everything else is piece of cake.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that loving yourself is an important component. Liking yourself is an equally important component. And I think also arriving at upper middle age and beyond, you can feel good about what you've accomplished in your life. You do have milestones that you can feel good about, that you've survived on some level, and you've reinvented. I think with relationships at this point also, you have to be careful about regrets. Because if you bring past regrets into a burgeoning relationship, a new relationship, it's going to stymie you. It's going to sabotage you. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So I work really hard on not having, as you can't do it completely, but I try really hard not to have regrets.
Yeah, you need to be in her book group. I just gave Joe Marie a book that's been popular,
Yeah.
The Midnight Library,
Okay.
and it's all about regrets.
Regrets.
But yeah, so being alone, being together, how a couple are together.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a big Leonard Cohen fan. And
Right.
there's a line in one of his songs that says something like, "We've been alone for so long. Now let's be alone together."
Mm-hmm.
So like two people, you know, they have to find that synchronicity where even if they're together, they don't always have to be talking, doing, you know,
Right.
just be
Right.
together. And that's kind of a magical formula, you know, you just have to kind of try it and see how it works.
Yeah.
So, but so you're saying, and we talked a lot about these issues in the uncoupling group,
Right.
loving yourself.
Yeah.
Feeling whole within yourself, not looking for somebody to complete you,
Right.
having worked through your regrets,
Mm-hmm.
not that you might be 100% whole and healed, but for the most part, you've come to terms with what's happened in your life and relationships, and you feel complete within yourself.
Sure, and we're all a work in progress. I mean, we didn't get here overnight. We got here from years of being cultivated. So as long as you're working on you and you realize, like you said, you realize these things, then you're going to go into something knowing exactly what, you know, I remember saying when I was dating somebody, I remember saying to him, I said, listen, you know, I've had walls up all my life and I'm finally letting them come down because I'm doing the work and I'm working on me. I said, but just know right now from the get-go, you may say something that triggers me, or I may say something. What I expect from, what I would appreciate from you, I don't say expect, is that if I do something, you call me out on it.
Right.
If you call me out on it, it's going to make me more cognitive of what I'm doing and more aware of it, and I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just let it go and then you get, you know, angry or whatever at me, it's not going to, you know, it's just not going to be a good relationship.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so that really, you know, like raises the question of why even go for this relationship, the committed, intimate relationship. And I happen to be a believer that it's that kind of relationship that provides the context for your own personal growth in more than any other relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, you know, and you know, we talk about the space between two people, this sacred space, this place where people interact, where they you know each other, they challenge each other, they encourage each other, you know, they hold each other, you know, sometimes hold your feet to the fire, and you can grow in a way in that kind of relationship that you can in no other. So to me, that's a huge, I guess the older I get, the more I see how big of a commitment that is, because it takes a lot of energy and a lot of focus and time. And, you know, when you get older, you realize time is such a precious commodity. You only have so much of it. You can only give so much of it to so many things.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a pretty big deal, you know.
You know, it's interesting because you know, it almost lends itself to the flip side, which is why bother? You know, with women especially, we get to a point where we have our village.
Right.
We have met people, we've had a lot of love, a lot of loss, we've had a lot of arrivals, we've had a lot of departures in our lives. But the one constant, again, with women in particular, are the women we share our lives with, the
Which
women we
men
share
quite often
space
don't
with.
have as much as women.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, because the cultivation didn't start, you know, at a young age where girlfriends were considered,
Right.
you know, happily in today's society, there's more of a melding of the sexes. It doesn't really matter if you have male friends or female friends. I happen to have a lot of male friends as well.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with that as well. But I know a lot of women that are in my group do say, why bother? What's the point? I have all I need.
Right.
Or they say, I was married a really long time. That was my love story. I don't have an expectation I'm going to find somebody, but if somebody comes along, I'll be open to it.
But there are a lot of women, and I think women more than men, who will say, hey, yeah, I would like some companionship.
Yeah.
Maybe some physical intimacy,
Yeah.
somebody to go to dinner, somebody to travel with,
Right.
but that's all I want. And that's okay. I mean, I'm not putting that down.
Right.
But I think the model we've operated on is for people who are really wanting more than that.
Right.
So it just depends, where you're at and what you want, and to be clear about it, going in.
Right. I always, so for me, I always say I have a huge group of friends, a lot of girls and guys. And I love my friends. I adore them. And and you have your very close ones. And I'm content there. I'm fine. And then I have a lot of friends that are like, they want to meet somebody. And I always say to them, listen, I want to meet, don't get me wrong, I want to meet somebody. I would love to have somebody not enhance my life, but go on the journey with me together. But I'm not going to be out there looking for it, because I think it just makes it your expectations. And then you take away from being in the moment because you're so busy saying, oh, did you see that guy over there?
Yeah.
I don't do that. When I'm out with people that I'm with,
Right.
and I'm enjoying their company and I'm having fun. And if something happens by chance to come along, then it's a bonus. But that's how I think for me, that's how I have to go through my life.
Yeah.
I can't go through it thinking, am I going to meet somebody? Where am I going to meet them? How's it going to happen? I don't even think that.
On the other hand, though, in terms of being proactive, if that's what you want. I mean, ideally, that relationship would just kind of emerge organically, naturally.
Yeah.
But it's so difficult in our world sometimes to make those connections. So it's like, there's the dating sites, which, that's something we could talk about. What are the pitfalls? What are the opportunities? And, how do you meet people? What do you actually do? Because it's really interesting. And again, over the last recent years, we've talked a lot about this in our uncoupling group, but you're in a state maybe you've never been. I mean, there are a lot of people who've been in committed relationships or marriages for 30 or 40 years. Yeah. Incredible. And all of a sudden they're single, and men and women have a different experience quite often. I mean, there might be a generalization. I'm not trying to be sexist, but the expression women grieve and men replace. Men have to, because for one thing, they don't have the collegial, the support group, the friendships that women do.
Right.
And so it's like they want to go out and, they don't want to be alone. They want to find somebody.
Right.
So, well, how do you do that?
Right.
Well, they say men will never leave unless there's somebody to replace what they're leaving.
Yeah. Like, and don't quit your job till you have another one.
Right.
Right.
It's true though, because I've seen it. I've seen it in my relationship. I've seen it in other relationships that they don't leave until they have that next security. And then when they get that, then okay, then I can walk away from this and go to the next.
Right.
Yeah. Unless you're left.
Right. Well,
which happens.
I was left, but he left, so I'm saying it goes to, he didn't leave until there was somebody in my place.
Yeah.
And then he moved on. So, they say men will never leave unless there's somebody to replace you. And the statistics are pretty high on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think there's a lot of self-worth self-worth that has to happen, because we're being asked, again, having survived and thrived and then adjusted to a new reality at a later point in our lives, when flexibility and self-confidence are not necessarily at their peak, and then the ultimate is fear. We have to deal with the fear of not only rejection, but the fear of not really being good enough or available enough for whatever reason to be successful in the next relationship.
Yeah.
So you almost have to put that aside. I mean, one of the sayings I had in front of me, as a mantra really after my divorce was, everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Mhm.
And I recount that
Okay.
every single day
Yeah, well,
because it really does put the power back to me.
mhm.
I'm the one deciding, that I'm going to go for it and that I'm going to put my fear aside. I'm in control,
Mhm.
So,
and I
yeah.
think that's what makes it successful,
But then it all
transition.
comes back to taking care of you
That's right.
first. And when
That's
you
right.
can take care of you, even if you have that rejection,
Yeah.
you don't look at it as rejection of you. You look at it as, okay, it just didn't work out. We didn't have the same values where you don't walk away saying, oh, I can't believe it. And another person that rejected.
Right.
You don't walk away with that. You walk away with, okay, well, it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
And I'm okay and I can move forward.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, it comes back to you.
Yeah. So that's the work and to do and really discovering who we are, say, after, a person's come out of a 30-year marriage.
Yeah.
They're defined by that relationship and their role in that relationship. So when that person's not there, the question is, who am I now, apart from being the wife of this man or the husband of this wife, the mother of these children. The children might still be there, but now they're maybe adult children. So who am I? I think that's the time to really take some time to contemplate that and, work on yourself. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's important to realize that it doesn't have to be a solitary process. I mean, working on yourself is the start of it, but you can have guidelines and guidance
And be with other
support.
and support and
as you
in
go through
relationships
this.
at a lot of different levels.
Absolutely.
Not just romantic.
Absolutely.
So it's, there's a little expression I like. It comes from the Buddhist tradition, but it says, life is the perfect teacher. I guess, and just relating my own experience, I've been a guy that thought he would never get divorced. I've been divorced twice.
Yeah.
And so now at this stage of my life, when I never expected it to be in this place, I have a choice to make. I can either see what's happened as just one of those tragedies that I'll limp around the rest of my life with a broken heart and just kind of live in nostalgia, or I can see it as an opportunity that's been presented to me in this moment. And I think we have those choices in a lot of ways as we suffer losses in our lives, which to me is what it sounds kind of maybe morose, but I mean, life is really nothing but a series of losses. We lose things a little bit at a time. And so it's like your response is, okay, how am I going to adjust to this? What's my perspective going to be?
Well,
And,
sorry.
no, that's all right.
What would they say? And I was writing this today. It's when you're at your lowest. So people, when you're at the very lowest and you don't think you can go any lower, is when you let go of your ego and you look at yourself and you start to rebuild yourself. And when you can do that, then things are going to change. But sometimes it takes something like a divorce that wakes you up and says, hey, the universe is sending you a sign. And here's the sign, and here's what you got to look at, and here's what you have to take everything out and just look within and start rebuilding.
Yeah.
And I think that is just, that's so clear.
I think that's really true. And I think one other thing I have found at this point going through this is that I take very little for granted. I speak with a lot of my friends who have been in long-term marriages and still are. And there is that reality that you do take each other and the value of the relationship for granted.
Yeah.
When you lose something, like a long-term marriage, even a short-term marriage, or just a relationship, when you lose it, you realize not to take things for granted.
Yeah. Well,
and that's been a lesson for me.
And that's a valuable lesson because that runs across the whole grain of life. I mean, we take things for granted. We don't really appreciate our health until we start to lose it. All of the things that we take for granted. So maybe that's kind of a good note to to close on,
Mhm.
you know, at our darkest point. And I'm reminded of that little book we used in our relationship group by Pema Chodron, When Life Falls Apart.
Yeah.
Here's this evolved, enlightened Buddhist
Right.
nun, and she finds out her husband's having an affair, and you know, she wants to pick up a big rock, this peacemaking Buddhist, and just hit him over the head with it, you know.
Mhm.
So she had to go through this kind of metamorphosis where she had to work through her fear
Mhm.
and her sense of loss and her sense of anger and all those things to really come out the other side.
Yeah.
But all those that really was her opportunity, you know. So I think that's as hard as it is for us to go through these things.
It's a wake up call though.
What are the 7 hallmarks of loss? I know you've
Oh, the
recounted
brief?
them. Yeah.
I have to go back. Kubler-Ross.
Yeah.
Yeah, shock, denial, anger, acceptance. There's one more. There's 5 actually.
It's five,
5.
yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
5. That's right. That's it.
Yeah,
Denial,
So-
did you say denial?
denial. Yeah,
Yeah.
denial. So, and they don't necessarily work in that order,
No,
but
no.
you know, generally, I mean, you know, we find ourselves, you know, and that takes. There's a different time frame for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, some people can move through it more quickly than
Yeah.
others. Some people get stuck,
Mhm.
you know, and some people have to bounce back and forth, you know.
Right.
You know, the denial part of it, that really didn't happen, did it?
No.
Really. No,
Right.
or it's like, no, I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I'm not angry for what she did
Right.
until 2 years later,
Right.
and you realize you're mad as hell, and you just
Right.
would never own it. So
I have a friend who's 28 years out of her relationship, and till this day, she'll still bring it up and she still has anger. And it's like,
Yeah.
and you look at that and you say, why do you harbor that? Like, that person has moved on.
Yeah,
His
but
life-
she needs to feel the connection still.
Well, no, it's the fact that she's never given up. Well, yes, she's done the
That's
connection,
what, yeah.
but she carries that. And I look at her and I say, the only person you're hurting is yourself, because that person has moved on, but you're still angry and you're harboring this and you're taking it with you for 28 years.
Right. Well, as
Like-
Byron Katie, you know, people get stuck in their story, and
Yeah.
so letting go of your story is a part of the process.
Doesn't
You know, that
define
you don't
it.
have to be defined by, especially if that story involves a lot of anger and lack
Yeah.
of forgiveness.
And
all that.
sometimes the anger and pain become your companions,
Yeah, just that.
and you
Right.
learn to live with it.
And you
And
shouldn't.
and you rely on it.
Yeah, you
It's called
shouldn't.
sweet misery.
Sweet
It
misery.
really is.
It's
I
a
mean,
part of your dialogue. Yeah.
right. So,
So you gotta-
so, you know, and like
Yeah.
you're saying, Jill Marie, we tend to operate, you know, repeat our patterns.
Yeah.
And we tend maybe to gravitate towards certain kind of people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
that are gonna commiserate with what you're feeling.
right. And,
It's horrible.
somebody attributed it to Dr. Phil. I hope it's not true, but I've known it for a lot of years. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten.
Right.
And that's another thing that we've spent a lot of time
It
talking
sounds
about.
like
is-
him.
That is
Yeah.
him, yeah.
Yeah, spent a lot of time talking about why do we continue to play out these patterns and choose the same kinds of people.
Because
Yeah.
we think we can get it right this time.
No, because we think we can help them, because we couldn't help somebody else in our life, whether it was our mother or father, whoever that person relates to. And we see it and we're like, okay, well, I couldn't fix my mom or my dad, so I'm gonna fix this person. And I'm gonna marry and I'm gonna fix him. And you do it unconsciously.
That's interesting that you're saying that. I never felt that. I never felt like I had to fix anybody.
Because you do it unconsciously.
Yeah.
Well, this is all getting very complicated.
Yeah.
It's like-
That's,
Yeah, no,
Chapter
but I
two,
mean,
maybe,
it's
yeah.
important, but you can see as we start to,
yeah.
you know, ask the
pattern.
questions about.
Everybody's starting point is
Yeah,
different.
we start to ask the question about relationships, you know, it'd be nice, oh, gee, I just want somebody to go to dinner with. I just want somebody to,
Yeah.
you know, go to Paris with. But, you know, when you start, if you're really serious about being intentional in a committed relationship.
Yeah.
And you really see it as an avenue toward your own growth, then you realize it's a dialogue, it's a big commitment. It shouldn't be, you know, it should be exhilarating too, because
Yeah.
when you love someone and, you know, you're committed to that, you know, gee, that's exciting. But it, you know, so I think that's where, you know, our group has come in. And what we like to provide for people is a place where they can have some ways to get some feedback and support
Mhm.
because it's not easy.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all need help, you know. We all need, even the experts. You know,
Absolutely.
we need
Yeah.
help.
They say
So,
therapists go to therapists.
Yeah.
yeah, therapists,
They all
yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we can maybe relaunch our group and find some people who are interested in coming and sharing together
Yeah.
to the extent that they're comfortable.
Mhm.
And, you know, join us on the journey, because I think
Yes.
we're certainly
All on
the
a
three of us here we're all on a similar journey.
Yeah.
And a little different in each way, but we won't go into our personal
Yeah,
stories,
yeah.
but very similar in some ways.
We all have our worksheets.
We have our worksheets.
And we want to create a forum where the concept of the worksheet, every time we do a podcast, will in fact be either responding to things we feel we need to talk about, or feedback from the people who are listening to us,
Yeah,
who have certain things that they want to talk about too.
yeah. And we certainly want to, you know, like engage some other experts, people
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
have particular knowledge and particular
Yeah.
Fields that relate to relationships. And we've done that before. And I think that's
Absolutely.
very
Yeah.
helpful, because there's so much good stuff out there right now. There's just so much good stuff.
Mhm.
God, to be in this situation, you know, 50 years ago,
Yeah.
you know, would have been so different.
Yeah.
But it's a different world now.
Yeah.
So,
You know, it's interesting. I go back to the old Bob Newhart show, you know, where he was a psychologist in Chicago. And one of the funniest episode streams was always when he did his group therapy.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And that was very big in the 70s. I
Yeah.
think group therapy was pretty much what everyone did. It's
Yeah.
what they aspired to. And then it fell off out of favor, you know.
Yeah,
And
there's not
people-
much group therapy.
No, no. And I know when you and I and Joe Marie started the Uncoupling group, the concept was to maybe bring in the dynamic of group therapy again.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this podcast is a form of as well.
Yeah.
You know, just really trying to share and gain from sharing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. We'll do this again.
Thank you. This is great.
We'll do it again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye all.